Good evening once again. My name is Mr. Jim Fogle. I'm one of the high school guidance counselors here at Bloomfield Hills High School, and welcome to our Spring 2018 Sophomore Junior College Night here at Bloomfield Hills High School. And I want to say on behalf of my counseling colleagues who are over here, we have Mrs. Shayna Klein, one of the other counselors, and this is Mrs. Carla Westerby, Mrs. Melanie Brooks, Mrs. Laura Hollier-Mattis, and Mr. Tony Medea. We all are so pleased everyone could join and come this evening. And we are also very overwhelmed really, to welcome our four distinguished guest speakers to present to you today. It's my pleasure I get to introduce these four individuals. And in really no particular order, just sitting closest to me, Mrs. Kim Bryant from the University of Michigan Ann Arbor Campus Admissions. Also, Mr. Oh yes, give it up.
Wow, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome, Kim, and thank you for coming. Next to her is Mr. Jim Cotter from the Michigan State University Office of Admissions. Welcome, Jim. And next to Jim is from Western Michigan University, Mrs. Melyssa Woods from the University Admissions Office. And at the end of the table, Mr. Brad Selesky, from the University of Detroit Mercy Admissions Office. Again, we are so pleased that there's such a big crowd here. This shows that our students are interested in the post-secondary educational options that we would like to highlight this evening. So I'm going to pass this off to our two counselors to ask some of the questions that I know are burning in the minds of the students and potentially some of the parents. So first up, Mrs. Westerby.
Good evening. Just so everyone understands how the night is going to run, Mrs. Klein and I are going to ask questions. We're just going to take turns, and then our panel will go through and answer the questions, and then about 7:30, we will open it up for the audience to ask any additional questions before we wrap up for the night. So the first question is, what kind of student do you think would be a good fit for your school?
Go ahead. Why don't we just move down the table?
Just do an order? Okay. Yeah, sure. Oh, there we go. It's working. Oh, is it working?
Don't mess up. You're going first.
All right, I am going first. Yeah, I know. So I think it's really about the student finding the institution that's the right fit for them. I am fortunate that I'm sitting in the same seat that all of you are sitting in right now, is that I have a junior and in high school this year. So next year, we're already starting to embark on this college process. So I want her to find the college that she's most excited about. We've already toured a few, and I can tell what she doesn't like from what she's told me, and I'm just listening as a parent to see, this is not what I want, Mom, because of this reason. It's too small for me. This one has this major, and they also have this opportunity. So I want a bigger city. What are some things? So as a parent, listening to your child and finding out what that right fit is for them, because when they find that, they're going to excel.
Well, good evening. And first of all, let me thank you all for being here tonight. I think it's certainly wonderful, parents, that you're supporting your sons and daughters in this journey. And the fact that you've given up this Monday evening to be here, I think, is a tribute to all of you and the support you've provided your sons and daughters. That said, I guess I'm really curious, where's the class of 2023? Class of 2023, where are you? Maybe wrong night. Class of 2023, that would be the graduating class of 2019 juniors. There we go. Okay. A little concerned about you all. Maybe not the quickest group we've spoken with. Where's the class of 2024? Oh, sophomores, you learned in a hurry. Good for you. I think Kim is spot on. It's all about fit, folks. It's where do you fit in, where do you feel comfortable, where do you feel a part of things. You need to get on campuses, you need to visit. You need to find out what an institution teaches. You also need to find out if you can be admitted. At Michigan State University, we know that this is a popular choice at Bloomfield Hills High School. Over the last 3 years, we've received 544 applications for admission. We've admitted nearly 400 of your students. And if we were to go back tonight at Sparty and put a sign out that said all of the Bloomfield Hills High alums ought to show up at Sparty for a few minutes, we'd have nearly 200 of your freshmen, sophomores, and juniors on campus. When you add to that graduate students and sophomores who might have attended another school in this area, we're talking about several hundred. So it is about a large public research institution, one that has a focus on undergraduate education. 80% of our students are freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That tells you that you're important to us. You'll see faculty members as early as your freshman year. We're also a leading research institution, and because of that, when you think about the fact that we're a research institution and an undergraduate institution, if you want to do research as an undergraduate student, Michigan State is a logical place to do that. We are the 7th largest institution in the country with over 50,000 students, and yet we do a great deal to break the size down. Our honors college, our residential programs, Lyman Briggs College, James Madison College, the Residential College for Arts and Humanities. We have a neighborhood network at Michigan State, which is a lot like the boroughs in New York. You have a community on that large campus that you belong to, and your support systems are there. It doesn't mean that you're limited to that portion of campus, but it's where you start, and it's really the foundation and the basis of our Student Success Initiative. Lastly, we have a rich study abroad program. If you'd like to go to any one of the 7 continents, you can do that. Why anyone from the state of Michigan would care to go to Antarctica is beyond me. But the fact of the matter is, it's an opportunity at a large public research institution that allows you to come and make a difference. I will tell you one thing about each of the institutions here. We're of varying sizes, but don't for 1 minute question whether or not you can make a difference at any one of our institutions. You have the ability to do that if you apply yourself. And as Kim said, it's about fit. If you all end up at Michigan State University, that's wonderful, but it won't happen. If many of you end up at Western Michigan University, we're going to stand right next to you and support you. If you end up at UAD Mercy because it's the best fit, we're going to stand right there next to you. If you end up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're on your own. But no. It's a great institution, and if it's where you ought to be, it's where you ought to be.
You can watch basketball.
That really hurt. It's still a little raw, but I still love you, Kim. I do. And good luck on Thursday night.
Thank you.
Represent the Big Ten well. I'm hoping you and Purdue continue to do well.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me? All right. So they've pretty much said it perfectly about finding the right fit. One thing that I always encourage students to do is just create a priority list of things that mean the most to them, and that's kind of how they should view the school and view the search process, and make sure you ask questions when you're on campus or when you're meeting with people or your guidance counselors to make sure that fit is right for you. You will be there for maybe 3 to 6 years, so the most important thing is that you find that fit and you're comfortable, because it will be your home away from home. With that being said, Western Michigan is a mid-major size school, so a lot of our students like that larger school feel, but they don't fall through the cracks because the class sizes and the support and the resources that we have on campus really cater to every population that is out there. We have many different clubs and organizations, so students who are looking to become engaged, stay involved, feel empowered to find their passions and pursue those passions, whether it be study abroad or major specific organizations and clubs or Greek life, whatever that may be. Our students are the ones who are seeking those out and making sure that they are getting the most out of their education so they grow not only as a student in their 4 to 5 years, but also as an individual. Thank you.
All right, so I wanted to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I wanted to thank our gracious hosts for extending the invitation. It's always a nice opportunity to get in front of so many people at one time. So the question posed, what kind of student do you think would be a good fit? So the short answer to that question would be smart. But the more expansive issue, academically, I think we are a good fit for most students. We have over 100 different degree programs at the undergraduate level. Now, in terms of numbers, we are only 3,000 undergraduates. So we are, whereas most of the other all the other panelists here are large, publicly funded institutions. We are a smaller private school, embracing both the Jesuit and Mercy Catholic traditions. So I think the type of student that would do well at Detroit Mercy is a student who's looking for a little bit more individual attention, right? So among our 3,000 undergraduates, the average class size at our institution is 20 students. So the classes are intentionally kept very small. We have a 10-to-1 faculty-to-student ratio at the university, and we are a direct admit institution, which allows us to place you with your son or daughter's academic advisor actually at freshman orientation. So they will have an assigned academic advisor at freshman orientation for the duration of their 4 or, in some cases, 5-year accelerated master's program. So in summation, I think that we're a good fit academically for most students in terms of what they're looking to study, because we have a wide range of majors, but I think our strong suit is really in students that are looking for more of a personalized, customized individual education.
Okay, the next question is more specific to applications. When you're reviewing applications, what are the important factors that you consider, and could you please explain? And maybe we'll start at the far end of the table and work our way back this time.
Okay, so at the University of Detroit Mercy, we take what is referred to as a holistic approach to admissions, which means we consider the whole student. Now, grade point averages are very important, as you may imagine. ACT or SAT scores are very important, as you well know. But we do read each and every essay that's submitted. We require an essay from each one of our freshman applicants. We do review each of the letters of recommendation that are submitted to us, whether those come from teachers, counselors, employers, coaches. We read every word of those letters of recommendation, and we consider character as an important component to our freshman application process. So we do review the entire student's portfolio. So we consider maybe they're working 30 hours a week after school. Maybe they're working multiple jobs. Maybe they're volunteering. These are all things we want to know and things that we do consider when reviewing applications. Now, I mentioned earlier that we are a direct admit institution, which means that there is not one set grade point average or one set composite test score we're looking for. We review each application based upon the program to which they have applied. So our standard for the accelerated 7-year dental program is vastly different than some of our other programs. So something to bear in mind as you're navigating this application process.
So everyone can probably imagine that the college application process can be pretty stressful. So at Western Michigan, we really try and make that as less stressful as possible. So with that being said, we have a pretty standard, simple view of our applications. What is required is an SAT, ACT test score sent to us, your transcripts, which includes your GPA, and then anything else is just additional information that you supply to us. So any essays, any recommendations, any extracurriculars or resumes, those all can be sent to us, and we will happily, if that's a word, review those. If not, we will look at your GPA, your test score, and also we take a large look at your trend in grade. So your most recent semester, we ideally want to be your strongest, so we know that you are ready for our academic rigor at Western Michigan. So the junior year is very, very important. Your teachers and counselors don't just say that just to say that. It really matters, especially for us at Western Michigan.
I think that you're going to find that there's tremendous similarities between all four of our institutions in terms of what we look at. You've heard the term holistic review, and that really is a catchphrase. We're looking at the entire person. We're trying to make an admission decision based on, does a student's past record predict success on our campus? And after all, that's what we're trying to create, is a relationship that makes sense because a student has a foundation to be successful. So you've heard about high school record. You've heard about test scores. You've heard about personal statements. You've heard about letters of recommendation. Just a couple of things I would caution you about is realize that every one of our institutions are looking a little bit differently at the threshold in which we're asking you to reach. At Michigan State, we're looking for a B+, A- student. At Harvard, they're looking for an A+ student and above. There's going to be differences from institution to institution. One of the things we're going to ask you to do is to do your homework. You know, realize that last year the University of Michigan admitted about 31% of their applicants. That's a pretty selective process. Not as selective as Duke, that admitted only 11% of their applicants last year. And neither of those are as competitive as Harvard, that only admitted 5%. So what you need to do is to begin to predict how you fit into someone's admit criteria. And again, as we talk about looking for a B+, A- average, it's important to realize that not all A-, B+ averages at Bloomfield Hills High School are created equal. You're absolutely right. Trend is so critical. There's no year more important than the junior year of high school in terms of what we look for, because it's the most recent thing that kind of predicts for us how you're going to perform. We see a student with a steady trend, that's good news. We see someone with a downward trend, that can be problematic. So you can look at two students with identical GPAs and exactly different trends, and the decisions be different. Quality of the curriculum, quality of the class. If I were to ask the class of 2023, you'd tell me you're the brightest group ever to walk the halls of the school. The class of 2024 would snicker and say, no, that's not the case. The fact of the matter is, one of your classes may be stronger than the other, and it's our job to know that. But one misnomer that I really think is important to understand is that all this talk about everyone's applying everywhere and no one is being admitted anywhere. I did my homework on this today. You're going to pick up the New York Times, the Washington Post, sometime the next couple of weeks. It's going to say everyone's applying everywhere and no one's being admitted anywhere. That is not the way it is, folks. Last year, only 19.7% of all the colleges and universities admitted fewer than half of their applicants. University of Michigan would be one of those schools, but only 19.7%. 36% of the colleges and universities out there admitted between 50 and 70% of all their applicants. And almost 45% of the colleges and universities out there admitted over 71% of the students that applied. All of this furor about how competitive college admissions is, and I'm not saying don't work hard, do work hard, but this furor is really about a handful of institutions. There are opportunities out there for everyone. And so what I ask you to do is you look at an institution, not only looking at what it teaches and what the fit is like, begin to predict, based on what you know about the institution and about yourself, whether or not you can be admitted. And history does indeed repeat itself. I think all four of us could probably pretty closely predict what your record would say about a decision right now. We wouldn't do that until we have everything in front of us, but the fact of the matter is, we're pretty consistent from year to year in terms of what we do.
So last year, we had 129 applications from Bloomfield Hills High School. 66 of those students were offered admission, and 52 enrolled on our campus. So far this year, we're not done. We're getting close. But so far this year, we had 211 students apply from Bloomfield Hills High School. 95 of those students have already been offered admission, and 36 have already paid enrollment deposits. They have until May 1. So students from this high school are strong. You guys are taking the right courses. You're doing the right things. We do look at trend, so that junior year is critical. So those of you that are sophomores, keep that in mind. All right, juniors, keep up the good work this year, because this is what we are looking at when we're evaluating your application. Is the senior year important? Absolutely. If a student's deferred, like many students are deferred right now, we have asked them to send in the first semester grades of their senior year. We're looking at that. We see too many C's, that answer is probably going to be no, right? So we want to see that upward grade trend. I just was on the phone with a parent today that was confused because her son was denied admission as a transfer applicant. And she said, I don't understand. He has 20-some credits. And I said, well, you know, I can't disclose his specific information, but I can tell you what we look at. We look at senior year grades. And I said, I don't know if you've, you know, I'm assuming you've seen your son's report card from his senior year. She said, yes, I have. Okay, he had a D- and a C- and a C his senior year. So I didn't have to say that to her. I'm sure that she's seen it, right? So we're going to look and see if that trend is going upward, staying consistent, but not going down. So that student is not going to be competitive as a transfer student if those grades are that weak, their senior year. So senior year is important. We're still going to look at that. We are the leaders and best, so we really are looking at leadership at Michigan. Yes, we are. I know. It's kind of our thing.
Are we going to break into the fight song?
I know we are. Yeah. Oh, that was a couple years ago. Yeah. I got over that. So, but it's important. So continue to do well your senior year, and we'll go on to the next question, I think.
I just checked the questions. I wanted to throw it in real quickly. Personal statements, because I thought we might have another question about that. Be thinking about personal statements deeply, folks. So often we see someone write a personal statement about someone in their life who's really important. And that's wonderful, but our first inclination is if you write about someone else, we'd like to admit that other person. And that's really difficult if perhaps they're deceased. So what would I encourage you to do is to write about yourself. And if someone did have an influence on you, talk about how that person had an influence. The other thing is, you may be sending the same personal statement to all 4 of our schools. Check it over. A couple of years ago, I was reading one that was really an impressive personal statement. I was really impressed. So impressed, I was almost ready to pick up the phone and tell the student, this was a great piece of writing, and I'm inspired by you, until I read the last line. And the last line said, and because of this, there's nothing I'd rather do than become an Iowa Hawkeye. And I thought, okay, you want to become an Iowa Hawkeye, and you've just sent that to Michigan State. So I called my friend Kirk Culver, who's the director of admissions out at University of Iowa, and I said, check on this kid for me, will you? And he came back to the phone, he says, I'll be damned. He wants to be a Michigan State Spartan. Make sure you send it to the right school. Because again, we do look at these things really closely, folks, and detail is critical.
Thank you. Next question. How do you view IB courses versus AP courses? Do you give more weight to full IB diploma candidates? Melyssa, you want to start?
Sure. So at Western Michigan, we do weight any AP, IB, or honors courses. So a B would become an A C would become a B. We don't weight anything below a C. So if you are challenging yourself and taking those AP or IB courses, make sure you can handle the rigor. Otherwise, we won't bump that up.
You know, my only advice would be don't create a high school curriculum based on what you think we want to see. Create a high school curriculum based on what fits you and what's most appropriate for you. We do recalculate grade point averages. We look at math, science, social studies, English, foreign language. We do give weight to IB courses and AP courses. We do not give weight to honors courses, because all honors courses are not created equal. And we know that IB courses and AP courses have a general format in which they follow. So we feel rather comfortable standardizing an enhancement to that, but not for honors courses. But again, folks, it's about what should you be doing to create the strongest foundation that you can create for your future. You know, if you take a rigorous curriculum, chances are that will reflect in your test score. College Board has changed the SAT significantly. If you're taking the SAT, folks, in a couple of weeks, be working on the Khan Academy. They're doing a great job, not in test prep, but in practice. If you're an athlete, you practice for your upcoming games. If you're a theatrical performer, you have a dress rehearsal. If you're a musical performer, you practice prior to the concert. We would expect you to do the same thing academically. Practice academically. The more you practice, the better you become in tune with your coursework. Okay. Nice. There you go. Okay.
So the University of Detroit Mercy, with respect to IB and AP courses, we do not recalculate grade point averages. Now, if the high school lists a weighted grade point average to take into account AP and IB courses, we will take the weighted grade point average, but we are not going to go in and recalculate that. So it is largely dependent upon which grade point average is listed on the student's transcript. Now, with regard specifically to credits earned through IB or AP, the AP credit system, as you know, is largely dependent on the AP examination. For most of those subjects, a 3 or better will get you credit at Detroit Mercy. We do accept up to 30 credit hours from high school that have been earned either AP, IB, or dual enrollment, whether those dual enrollment classes were taken online or on a college campus somewhere. So really it's a numbers game, and as I said, you can bring up to 30 credits with you.
So we don't have a preference at Michigan. We want to see that students are challenging the curriculum that's offered to them. So my daughter was in an honors English course with one of her best friends, and she came home and she said, I don't understand why, you know, Ava is in this class. It's really frustrating me. She says she doesn't like to read, she doesn't like to write, and yet she's in honors English. And I said, why don't you ask her? So the next day she asked her. She's like, why are you even in here? And she said, well, my mom told me I had to be because this is what colleges want to look at. That's what they want to see. So unfortunately, that's not the case. So we really want to see that you're taking rigorous courses in areas that you're passionate about. And you shouldn't take them because you think that's what we want to see. We're seeing an uptake in the essays in regards to depression, anxiety, stress, and we don't want that. We want your kids to be healthy. We want to have healthy applicants at our institutions. So it shouldn't be, I'm going to take 5 AP courses my senior year because that's what they want to see. You know, yeah, we want to see some rigor. We don't want to see that you're just taking 2 academics your senior year and, you know, filling it with other courses that are non-academics. But we want you to do well, but you know yourself and you know what areas that you're really interested in. So follow your passions in those areas. I think that's really, really important. We also accept HL credit for IB, so if you're testing for that, unfortunately we don't take the standard level, but the higher level we will accept if you score 6 or 7, and 4s or 5s in the AP exams.
If students take honors and AP or IB classes and get B's and C's, how does that compare in your review of the application versus students taking regular academics and getting all A's?
Well, we like students to take the AP and honors classes and receive A's, okay? We also, students can self-report on the Common Application what they've received on their AP exams, and many students will do that. If we see that, you know, they have a certain grade in that class, maybe they have an A in that class, but then they scored a 2 on the AP exam, yeah, you know, that might be a little questionable, right? Even though we don't require them if a student reported that. And the opposite is true, you know, if a student had a B or a B plus in an AP class and then they scored a 5, you know, they clearly mastered the material. And so we do look at that in pertaining to our engineering school. We're going to look at physics, calculus, chemistry, and we want to see that students are doing well in those courses and they're taking AP in those courses. And if they report subject tests for SATs on their Common Application or the tests for the AP, we will take that into consideration in the review.
You know, I think Kim is spot on. I mean, if you're looking at a highly selective institution, of that 19.7% of the institutions that admit fewer than 50% of their applicants, they want to see honors curriculum and they want to see A's. If you're getting a B in an honors course at Michigan State, we're pretty comfortable with that. I would suggest that if you're getting a C in an honors course, you have to ask two very difficult questions. One, is it the correct placement? And are you learning the material that you need to learn to progress? Or two, are you putting forth the effort that needs to be put forth to be successful? You know, again, I'd never say focus entirely on the grade. I would say focus on what it is that you're learning. But by the same token, if you're in an honors course and you're achieving a C, and a grade really does begin to identify your performance, C is very average. And the question becomes, is it the appropriate placement? So, you know, we don't make a B in an AP course an A, but we do realize that a B in an AP course is richer than just a B. It's closer to a B plus A minus based on our weighting system.
How do you view online courses versus a student taking the course in the high school classroom?
The University of Detroit Mercy really has no preference. I mean, as I stated in my opening remarks, our class sizes are small, and they are designed as such to encourage debate, discussion, and familiarity, not just among the students, but between the students and their professor. So with regard to online courses, I'm assuming this is in reference to dual enrollment, or are these... Which online classes are you referring?
It could be a student who just prefers to do an online class that we do offer here at the high school, or dual enrollment.
Sure, as long as it's from an accredited high school or an accredited college, we have absolutely no preference whether those courses are taken online or in the high school.
So we are similar in that we don't have a preference, and we understand that every student is coming from a different place, and maybe an online course might make sense for one semester while they're in high school. So whatever makes your learning experience that much greater, that's what we would recommend. And if it's online, then we'll look at that as opposed to in person.
You know, my first question would be, what is it that you can't get at this high school? I mean, this is an outstanding high school that provides a very, very rich curriculum. And so if you're taking an online course, I guess I'd really like to know, is it something that you couldn't get here? Now, it happens to be College Board's new AP course. Well, okay, that may, AP Computer Science, that may make sense. But one of the disadvantages to taking an online class is, look, folks, I said before, we've had almost 550 applications from this high school over the last 3 years. We've received 227 this year. We know your curriculum really, really well. In fact, we even know the names of a couple of teachers that strike fear into your heart. So the fact of the matter is, if it's a high school course, we're in a position to measure that a bit better than we might an online course that we don't know as much about. Now, that's not saying, I'm not discrediting an online course. It may be a great experience. But at a high school like Bloomfield Hills High, you've got a rich curriculum of just about everything you need. If you go to Fowler High School with a graduating class of 28 people, yeah, an online class may be a really requirement. Or a Pewaukee, Westphalia High School with a graduating class of 52. You might have to rely on an online course. But here, I guess I'd want to know more about the motivation behind it.
I agree with everything Jim just said. And at Michigan, we don't offer online courses for our students because we see the value of them having one-on-one interaction with other students in their classroom as well as the professor. And it's a socialization issue for us. So we really want to see that, but we understand that there are some reasons. And I, for one, as a parent, was not in favor of this, and my daughter has convinced me. And she had, I feel like she's going to end up being an attorney one day, but she makes good arguments. And she spoke with me about this, and I talked with her counselor at the high school, and I agreed to do this because they have a technology requirement. So she was going to sign up, it's her senior year next year, right? She was going to take digital photography to get that requirement. But she found out that if she takes an online course, she can use that. And she also wants to pursue vocal music, and she really wants to take a music theory course. So this summer, she's going to take a music theory course through the Berklee School of Music, where she spent 2 weeks last summer at their institute. So she's going to go online, and she's going to take music theory for her own knowledge and to help her personally, but she will receive credit, a technology credit for that. So for that, I agreed. That was a great option for her. Okay, so there might be a reason, but I did ask her counselor to comment on that on her college applications. So somebody reading that doesn't think, okay, she's just trying to do online stuff.
I would expect nothing less from the leaders and the best. That was a great point. I think Kim is spot on. It's when it's used as an enrichment piece, it's spot on. But if it's used to supplant perhaps a course that you could take here, that's what I'd want to talk about. I think your daughter, obviously she takes after her father, and that's great. I'm sorry. That's a great way to enrich a curriculum.
Okay, we get a lot of questions about world language requirements, so this is kind of multiple parts to one question. What are your requirements or recommendations in terms of world language for admission? Do you count American Sign Language for that admission requirement? And if a student chooses to drop their world language after level 200 or 300 and replace it with a core class that they're more interested in, are you okay with that?
So the University of Detroit Mercy has a very robust foreign languages department. We do not require a foreign language in high school. We do not require a year of foreign language to graduate from the University of Detroit Mercy. We do require a year of mathematics, regardless of what you're majoring in, but we do not require a year of foreign language. With that being said, if you are fluent in a language, or if you have taken 4 years of a foreign language here at the high school, you can enroll for one course, one senior level language course at Detroit Mercy, and if you do well in that course, you will be granted a language certification from the university that certifies you are fluent in that language. Now, the benefit, aside from the certificate, is that you will be awarded 9 credit hours for that one class. So if you are a student who has taken 4 years of French, 4 years of Spanish, 4 years of German, this is a good way to maximize the time that you've put in high school by getting 9 credit hours instead of 3 at the college level.
So at Western Michigan University, we do not require foreign language, but we definitely recommend at least 2 years, just in terms of the value that you'll be getting and the help that it will be when you enter Western. So if you are interested, we definitely recommend it, and ASL is included in that foreign language.
The same at Michigan State in terms of a sign language. We do acknowledge that as a language. If someone comes from a bilingual home, they have met the spirit of our 2-year requirement, but we do have a 2-year requirement of the same language for students being admitted to Michigan State. I will be very frank. If you've taken 2 years of a language and you stop there, you will have lost that language by the time you arrive on a college campus. So if you take 2 years, my suggestion is take a 3rd year. If you take a 3rd year and you stop then, it makes absolutely no sense. Because if you've invested 3 years in a language, take the 4th year. And if you have 4 years of language, what that says is that you've pursued a very rigorous curriculum. And it speaks very, very loudly at Michigan State. I will speak to my daughter's experience. She is bilingual, she is fluent, and most of her career success as a young female has been based on the fact that the old boys she works with speak one language. And when it comes time to speak a second language, she's pulled into every one of those meetings. And it's been her leg up. So I would tell you that we live in a global society. Languages are becoming more and more important every single year in terms of communicating globally. And if you're going to invest 2 years, why not invest 3? And if you've invested 3, it's foolish not to invest 4. How do I really feel?
We require 2 years at Michigan, and I can honestly say that over the many years that I have been reviewing applications from this high school, and I think I've lost count, it's 20-some, 25, 26, I have yet to see someone who does not have at least 2 years. So continue to do that. American Sign Language does count as long as you've had it the 2 years. Many students will do American Sign Language with another language. Again, when we're looking at a holistic review, that's impressive. You're branching out and you're doing things like that. So good job.
What types of general academic supports are available on your campus?
Okay, so academic support at Detroit Mercy. We have an entire office dedicated to helping students in the classroom. That office is located on the 3rd floor of the main library at the McNichols campus. It is called the Student Success Center, and it is a peer-to-peer tutoring office. So say a student comes in and says, you know what, I'm really having trouble in my Chem 1020 class, and I've got Dr. Benvenuto, and he's driving me crazy. And I mention that because he does. So what the office will do is they will take down your course, the section in which you are enrolled, and the professor teaching that course. They will then reach out to a current Detroit Mercy student who has taken that class from that professor within the last 12 months and gotten an A. So when the student goes in for his tutoring appointment, he or she will sit down next to the tutor, and the tutor is going to say, what chapter's giving you trouble? Here's all my homework, here's all my notes, here are my exams, here are my quizzes. What chapter, what concepts specifically are giving you the most trouble, and let's attack that first. So what this allows us to do is eliminate any confusion that may take place between the professor, the tutor, and the student, because they're all using the same course materials, same textbooks, same syllabus. So it is a peer-to-peer learning environment that is free and is available to students as often as they think they need it. And this need not be a reactionary event, right? If you're taking a chemistry course and you know chemistry isn't your strong suit, be proactive. Go in there and say, hey, I'd like to meet with somebody an hour after class just to make sure that my notes are good. Or I want to meet with somebody an hour before my exam just to make sure that I'm prepped and I'm ready to go. There's no problem with that. You don't have to wait until there's a problem to take control and take some action. So that is what we offer.
At Western Michigan, our very first pillar is learner-centered. So we have a lot of opportunities and support across campus, whether it's through your academic major or academic college or just the student services around campus. So we definitely encourage all of our students to be proactive, and it's not only for students who are struggling, it's for anyone on campus. So specifically, we have the Bronco Study Zone, and we also have some peer mentoring, and we actually call it peer coaching because it's more than just studying the subjects, but it's also working on study skills, test anxiety, time management, things that other students have dealt with for their first 2 years, and you'll be paired up with someone in a similar major who's had similar experiences, so that is one option. We also have drop-in tutoring available in select academic courses, so you can drop in or you can do some group studying, group tutoring. Also, we have some of those online as well, which is very nice. So if between classes you can't get to the Bronco Study Zone, you can schedule an appointment online. We also have supplemental instruction, and these are specific to your academic major. So we have them available from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. in our residence halls. If you choose to be, just as an example, in our engineering house, you'll have tutoring available at night right in your residence hall for classes like physics, calc, all of those engineering courses, so you have that access available. We also have a writing center, so if you just want help on writing a paper or you need consultation for a research paper, you can reach out to one of our librarians in specific subjects, and they will help you throughout that process. And again, anything that you need on campus, there's always someone willing to help and make sure that you are not alone in that process. And especially as a first-year student, whether that is as a freshman or an incoming transfer student, we also have a first-year seminar course, which we recommend to all of our students to take, and they also will help you through some things such as time management, study skills, any transitional aspects to college that you might not be familiar with.
Yeah, I think peer tutoring is really big on a lot of campuses right now. The math lab, the writing lab. One of the things I would encourage you to do is to, the very first day of class, look at the syllabus. And what is the expectation of that class? At Michigan State, every faculty member must provide a student with a syllabus first day of class. So what it does is it establishes everything from the grading scale to the attendance expectations to what's expected of that student academically and educationally throughout the semester. So look at that syllabus and go from there. I would tell you that at Michigan State, our faculty members, if you're teaching a course, you have established office hours every week. Their biggest complaint about freshmen, when I say they, meaning faculty, the biggest complaint about freshmen is that they don't take advantage of office hours. Establish a relationship with those people that are teaching you. You know, I had two young guys in my office the other day. They're both freshmen, they're roommates. One's name is Terrence, and his roommate was giving him a hard time. He said, "Oh, you got to see Terrence. I mean, he stays after class, and he talks to the professor, and he goes to see him a couple of times a month. And, you know, all he's trying to do is get a grade." Yeah, that's okay. That's the expectation. And his buddy just couldn't figure that out. The fact of the matter is, take advantage of those opportunities to build a relationship and understand that team learning is a huge, huge initiative, not just in colleges and universities, but in the workplace. You know, the idea of being the Lone Ranger and working by yourself all the time is not a very popular option right now in the workplace. And one of the things we're encouraging students to do is to team learn. Now, we're not asking them to team on the tests, but preparing for the tests, yes, that's a good thing to do.
So I'm going to piggyback on that. Students in the audience, how many of you have formed study groups and maybe picked a few friends and went to Panera or somewhere and studied for tests? Right? You're already doing this. So you're really building some good skills right now. That's great, and I applaud you for that. I think all of us will. And we want you to continue to do that in college. So you can form study groups, whether it be in your residence halls, after class. Whenever we have a class of over 100 students at the University of Michigan, we have a small group that meets once a week that really provides more one-on-one attention to go through the material to really understand that. Now, you don't have to go to those. But why wouldn't you take advantage of that and fulfill that opportunity? Go to office hours. Take advantage of the writing center, the math center, some of the things that everybody's mentioned. We all have these on our campuses, and they're for you to be the one that's engaged. So you have to be the one doing that. Nobody's going to say, "Hey, we're going to make you go do this." You have to take the initiative. So you're taking the initiative now by forming your study groups. That's great. Continue to do that in college, and you'll be very successful.
Do any of you prefer the ACT or the SAT one over the other?
Either one.
Either one. They are different tests, and perhaps you take them both. And if you take them both, we'll look at your best score. If you take them more than once, we'll look at your best score. But we don't prefer one over the other, and we do not require the writing portion.
We do require the writing portion, sorry.
Yeah, so same with Western. We don't require the writing portion, and we will take whatever one is highest. So if you take both, we'll just take the highest score.
The University of Detroit Mercy has no preference between the ACT or the SAT, and we do not require the writing portion.
Do any of you super score the ACT?
No.
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 You know what super score is? You take the test multiple times, you take the sub-scores, the best sub-score from each test, and then you create a score that you never really received. So we don't superscore. But you know, we do look at multiple tests, and if you score a 22 in the math one time and a 24 the next time, we really kind of defer to the highest score because it's a standardized test and it really ought to be somewhere in the ballpark, but we don't supersize. Khan Academy. If you are not dabbling in the Khan Academy right now as part of your PSAT and your SAT practice, go to the Khan Academy.
Is there an essay required for your admission? And if so, what are you looking for in the essay?
Yes, we do require an essay for consideration for admission to the university. It is 1 page in length minimum on any subject you wish to opine, address, or discuss. The way I break down the essay to families is it is your son or daughter's opportunity to tell me something about them, for them to tell me something about themselves that I wouldn't know just by looking at their grades. I wouldn't know based on their test scores, and I wouldn't know based on which clubs they belong to. It really is an opportunity to give us an idea, to kind of fill in the blanks as to the picture of the whole student, right? So I think the example was used earlier about someone who's inspired you. That is a very common topic. An occasion on which you've had to overcome an obstacle. I pulled my hamstring in track and I had to gut it out. I've read about 100 of those in the last few years. So I think students put too much pressure on themselves with the essay. I really do. We are not looking to parse every last word in the essay, and we're not looking to pick it apart. I just want a more complete picture of who you are, where you've been, where you are, where you're going. That's really what I'm trying to get out of the essay. For example, there may not be room in the application to tell me that you work 3 jobs. There may not be room on the application to tell me that mom or dad owns a small business and you help them out 5 or 6 days a week down at the shop. I wouldn't know that. So the essay, it really is an opportunity. It really is an opportunity to tell us something that we ought to know that we wouldn't know otherwise.
So at Western, we do not require an essay, but if you send us one, we will definitely look it over. We are more than happy to, and we like reading some of those. And to piggyback off of that, when we read these essays and any papers or resumes that you send us, we want to learn about your why. So we don't just want to hear a story, but we want to hear why it changed you or what it did to affect you in any way. So make sure there's some reasoning behind this paper that you send us, and it's not just kind of an empty statement or story.
I have addressed this one already, so I'll make it really brief, but I will tell you that I've been in this profession for 35 years. I have read hundreds, if not thousands, of personal statements. My job over the last 35 years is to predict the behavior of 17 and 18-year-olds in this country. That is exactly why I look the way I do tonight. But the fact of the matter is, I would ask you, find your voice. No one else's voice. Not your friend's voice, not your parents' voice, find your voice. And I will tell you one of my pet peeves, and it may happen at this high school because it happens at an awful lot of them in Oakland County. The first assignment in the senior English class is to submit your personal statement. It drives me crazy. I do not want a purified edition of your personal statement. I want your words, I want your emotions, I want your opinions. I want you to represent yourself. Find your voice and be true to it.
So a couple weeks ago, I read an essay. It said, Zachy loves soccer, and it talked all about Zachy. Zachy was the applicant. Zachy was not writing in third person. I checked with the staff here to make sure Zachy did not attend Bloomfield Hills High School before I brought his name up. That is a true name. I think he was down the street at another high school. But
Who wrote that?
Yeah, somebody named Zachy. Yeah, and I was not impressed. So again, when you think about this, in our admissions office, we have 3 different people reading your application, students. So The first one is done by a reader. We have about 100 readers that do the first read of the application. They read everything, not just the essays, the entire application. They'll make comments, whether they feel that you are competitive, and these are the reasons. Then it goes to one of our admissions counselors, and they'll do the second read. It's a blind read, so they will not see what the first person put. Then I will see that application and I will validate it. Now, I'm here now, I'm here in the fall. So I get to know some of you personally. I shake your hands, I meet you. Some of you, come up to visit, so I may remember who you are. But keep in mind, when you are submitting this essay, the people that are reading it are they're strangers. They don't know you, you don't know them. What do you want them to know about you? This is your story. So make it from you and make it real, like Jim said.
Do you require teacher recommendation letters, and what advice would you give students when deciding which teachers they should ask to write these recommendations for them?
Okay, so I love this question because I always give the students an assignment when I come every fall or anytime I get a chance to talk to students. So I'm going to give you the assignment tonight. So students, perk up, right? So tomorrow morning, when you go into each of your classes, you have school tomorrow, right? Okay, just checking. We have all these half days and early, I don't know, sometimes there's no school. So when you go to school tomorrow morning, I would like you to go into each of your classes, and I want you to look at your teacher and ask yourself this question. If I were to ask this teacher to write my letter of recommendation today, what would they say about me? Would they say that I'm respectful to my peers, to the teacher, that I engage in classroom discussion, that I turn assignments in time, I'm prepared for all of my presentations, I'm prepared for tests? What would they say about me? Because that's important. And when you answer that question at the end of the day tomorrow, you will have at least one or two teachers that you can put on your list that you could ask to write a positive letter of recommendation. And if you ask this teacher nicely, in enough time, to write a letter of positive recommendation, if they hem and haw and they don't say, I would love to write this for you, then maybe go to your teacher number 2. Because we've had a problem this year where I've seen a much more where teachers are not maybe being consistent in some cases, where they're saying below average for academics, for example, but then they don't comment in it. Or it's the opposite. And they'll say, this student is not that strong, and I'm looking at this transcript and I see all this rigor and all these A's, and I'm thinking, where is this person coming from? Because they didn't say anything to justify their comments. And then some of them are just saying, okay, this person is not, they come to class, they're not prepared, they're not respectful to me, and they're being honest. So ask yourself, because we all don't get along with everybody, right? And there are going to be some teachers where you feel you're going to really click. You're going to love them, they're going to love you. Those are the ones that you want to ask to write your recommendation letter.
And in terms of some institutions, do know who it is that they want to get the letter from. Maybe it's a teacher. In some cases, they'll accept something from coach. Sometimes they'll accept it from an employer. Sometimes they'll accept it from just about anybody you would want to have write a letter, with probably the exception of your parents. I wouldn't go down that road. I will tell you the most interesting letter of recommendation that I've ever received, and Kim has heard this because I tell it everywhere we're together. I received a letter a few years back from a teacher that said, Mr. Cotter, in regards to student X, you could do worse. And that was it. And I did exactly what you did. I laughed. And then as the day went on, I started thinking, how could this teacher do it? So I called the teacher on the carpet. I said, look, how could you write a letter like this about this student? He said, I'll tell you how I did it. The kid showed up in my classroom at 4 o'clock one afternoon, said, I need a letter of recommendation, have it in the mail by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Teacher said I gave them what they deserved. Probably a little harsh, but it's exactly in line with what Kim's saying. Be thoughtful about who it is that you're going to have write a letter of recommendation, and approach them early. Juniors, be thinking about it now. Sophomores, it's not too early to be thinking about it. Who do you want to write a letter? And again, give that person enough time that they can be thoughtful and insightful in terms of what they write.
Yeah, exactly what Kim and Jim said. Make sure you have a relationship with whoever is writing your recommendation. We don't require it at Western, but we will look over any recommendations, and we will not hesitate to reach out to any counselors or teachers who write those recommendations if we have any questions or concerns. So again, make sure you are having someone that you have a great relationship with, who you trust, and will say good things about you.
We do require one letter of recommendation from a teacher. We are happy to review more. I've had applicants that have submitted 3 or 4 sometimes, not just from teachers, but coaches or employers or youth ministers, anyone that can attest to your work ethic, your character, your performance in the classroom. So we do require one teacher recommendation. Typically, most of our applicants will submit one teacher recommendation and then possibly a secondary recommendation from somebody else. Now, for our Common App applicants, there is a student review form that Common App sends out to the high school counselors. Those can be submitted in lieu of a letter of recommendation, but there is a written comment section that we read very closely. I still personally prefer traditional letters of recommendation.
I just wanted to add one little thing. So there's also a counselor recommendation that I think is really important. I have worked with this staff for decades, and they are phenomenal. So let's applaud them. Thank you so much. But I think that, in some cases where I talked about the depression and anxiety hitting, earlier, there are some times where a student may go through something that's difficult throughout high school. We recognize that. I think it's really beneficial to talk with your counselor member here so they can comment on that in the application as well. And maybe your grades went down or dipped a little bit one year or one semester, maybe it was a divorce or an illness or, with you or a family member or something happened. And so they bounce back up, which is good. Or maybe the grades weren't affected at all and you persevered that. So I think it's really good to have that open communication because they're professionals and they will share that with us, and that really helps us with the application review when we're looking at things like that.
Thank you. This is our last question from us, and then we're going to open it up to the audience for a couple minutes. How do you view a pass-fail grade on a transcript?
I feel strongly about this. But then I feel strongly about everything. Hey, look, if you take a class pass-fail, I'll tell you it's not an A or a B. And it's probably not a C. If it's the last option to stay in that course and you can get a pass, then I would say okay. But if you're taking a class pass-fail, it is basically a non-entity in terms of college admissions. Because again, if you're taking a class pass-fail, it is not an A and it's not a B and it's likely not a C. And if it's a pass, then it's probably a D. And if it's a fail, it's a fail. So the fact of the matter is, pass-fail tells us absolutely nothing. And unless it's an agreement between the teacher and the counselor and the family and the student, I would avoid pass-fail at every possible avenue.
I agree.
Yeah, and I would just add, if you are taking that pass-fail for a reason and you have some circumstances, as long as we have that additional information and you disclose something or your counselors disclose something, then that's a different scenario.
Yep, I agree 100% with what my colleagues have said here. It really is a non-factor.
Okay, I'm at the mic here now, willing to run to your side with the mic. If we have a couple of questions for our distinguished panel, just raise your hand. Here's our first volunteer. Any Phil Donahue fans out here? Only half the audience got that.
You're the only guy that remembers Phil Donahue.
Hey, sorry, I'm really new at this. It sounds like the letters of recommendation, do they go directly from the teachers to you, or are they submitted with the individual's application?
So her question was the teacher recommendations, do they come directly to us? So that's a great question. Most students, yes. We don't we really appreciate the fact that, you know, the teachers send them and they can be honest. So typically the students do not see those. They come right from the teachers.
So that's why you're saying you should really be sure what they're going to say, because the kid's not necessarily going to see what they say.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Next question?
Do we have one over here?
Where at?
I'll handle
Oh,
this
Mr.
side,
Medea is
okay?
helping. Great.
All right. Woo-hoo.
If students participate in events like the National School Walkout, will that be held against them in the admissions process?
Will it be held against them? You know what? My daughter was one of the organizers of the Washtenaw one, so I'm very proud of her. And no, it will not be held against you in any way whatsoever.
I would ask that you go to the Michigan State Facebook. We put a comment out 2 weeks ago that indicated that peaceful protest is the foundation in which our country has been built. And we want students to speak out, and if someone is somehow disciplined for peaceful protest, it will not have any impact at all on their admission status. I will tell you that most institutions, or many institutions, do have a crime and conduct question. We ask if you've ever been charged with a crime or if you've ever been suspended at your school. And do know that when we ask those questions, what we're attempting to do is to identify individuals who pose a threat to either themselves or our community. Peaceful protest does not pose a threat.
Yeah, we also made an official statement that it will not affect your admission, and same thing that Jim just said. It's we like to hear a student's voice, so if that is something you're passionate about, then it will not affect your admission.
Social justice issues are something that the University of Detroit Mercy is very passionate about, something we're very serious about both in our Jesuit and Mercy traditions. So no, exercising your First Amendment right will not be held against you in our admissions process.
Hi, I apologize if you already discussed this. Some of us came in a little bit late. But I'm a first-timer with a sophomore this year. How do you treat the weighted averages when the kids are taking IB, taking AP? Because as a parent, it's confusing to me when there's two different grade point averages on my child's report card.
So at the University of Michigan, great question, thank you for asking. So at U of M, we take all of the weight out, and we put every student's application on a 4.0 scale. So we look at the transcript. If it's an A, it's a 4-point. A B is a 3-point, and we won't talk about the lower ones. But we'll calculate that GPA and determine what that is. Then we go ahead and dig deeper, obviously, and we're going to look at what types of courses they've selected to take from 9th grade through 12th grade. Some cases 8th grade, if they've taken a foreign language, started that earlier, or they've started algebra or geometry earlier in middle school. We look at that as like an honors type course, and that's how we would view it. So the GPA, we recalculate it based on all courses from really 9th, 10th, and 11th grade.
And in terms of how we review IB and AP courses, there's really a specific manner in which we do that in a general manner. You know, one of the things that our committees will do is review a curriculum when they first look at a transcript and determine rigor. So has this student taken 4 years of a foreign language, which we hope they have? We really, really, really hope they have. Have they taken honors courses? Have they taken honors courses or AP courses or IB courses in multiple disciplines? So we look at the quality of the curriculum. We do recalculate grade point averages. We do add weight to AP and IB courses. So if you get a B in an IB course or an AP course, it's really a 3.5 in our recalculation process. We do not weigh honors courses because, again, honors courses are inconsistent from teacher to teacher, school to school, class to class. There is one high school not far from here that has honors physical education. I'm not sure what that looks like, but the fact of the matter is honors can be a lot of different things.
So we also will always take the weighted GPA, and if you have any honors AP or IB courses, we will recalculate based on that 4.0 scale.
We do not recalculate grade point averages, but we will take a weighted grade point average if it is listed on the high school transcript.
Hi. So I have a son who's going to be attending the 6-week camp at Carnegie Mellon. It's the STEM camp that they have. How does that reflect on his admissions? Is that something that you guys, does that reflect well on his admissions, and does that give him a little bit of an edge?
I didn't get the question. I'm getting an echo. Did you hear it?
Sorry. So my son is attending the Dale Carnegie STEM camp. He's a junior, so he's going to go to the 6-week camp. How does that help him in his admissions? Does that look good on him, and does that give him preference?
It's showing any type of program or extracurricular, anything that a student is committed to. We value that. We look at things that are taken throughout the year or in the summer. That might be a great experience for him to write about in his essay if he gains a lot from that and talking about that more and what his takeaway was. That would be I would love to read that. So I think definitely things like that. But again, they should be doing things that they're interested in, because again, one of my daughter's other friends, her mom signed her up for this program at Johns Hopkins last year, and she was all hot about it, saying, oh, this is going to get her into all the Ivy League colleges because she's going to do this medical leadership. And I said, okay, half of the students that I talk to do this. Again, you can pay for certain programs and do them. That doesn't mean that you're going to get into an Ivy League school, which she didn't. So, she did the program, she enjoyed it, but again, I think she did it for the wrong reason. So we want you to do programs that you're interested and passionate about. Don't do them because you think colleges are going to be impressed with that. But that sounds like a great program. So I'd love to read the essay.
You said she didn't get admitted with a certain degree of satisfaction.
Well, the mother drove me a little nuts.
Okay. I think those sorts of experiences are important, and I think they reflect on the student. But the bigger question might be, what's the long-term impact? How does it impact who that person is as they move forward after that 6-week course or that 6-week experience? So it's not just the measurement of doing it, it's how does it make that person a deeper, more enriched participator in the things that are going on around them? Does it allow them to become a more articulate leader? Does it allow them to perhaps pursue things that before that experience they may not have pursued? So it's not just how does it look, it's what's the impact.
Okay, Mr. Fogle, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think Jim said it perfectly. It's all about the experience and what that means for you. And if your student does engage in something like that, you can always let us know additionally on our application, and we would definitely review that into consideration.
Yes, as I mentioned before, we do take a holistic approach to admission, so of course that is something we would look at, something we would consider. All extracurricular activities, I think, have their place in an essay or an application. Not going to replace a D in algebra. Right? Not going to replace an F, right? I think a lot of the times the parents come in and they know there's a clunker in there somewhere in the transcript, and they're looking for things to augment that application, right? Well, don't look at that first semester freshman year. He was president of the student body, and he was, a volunteer at this organization. That's great. That's fantastic. We encourage that. But don't lose sight of the academics, I would say, is my recommendation either.
We have time for 1 or 2 more audience questions.
How are extension classes looked at?
We're not hearing up here. Did you get it?
Extension class.
Oh, extension classes.
I'm going to try and clarify your question. We have a math extension class for Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, Calculus, which is like enrichment, reteaching, kind of supporting the math course that they're in as an elective course. Because we offer 8 courses for our juniors and seniors, we offer that as a new class this year and again next year.
I would like to say I was familiar with that program, but I don't review your applications. I don't sit on the committees that look at your transcripts. I'm assuming Terrence Brown probably would be familiar with it. Look, in terms of math pursuit, the most significant determiner as to whether or not you're successful in our College of Business or our College of Engineering is mathematics. How you get to a certain level of proficiency is not nearly as important to us as the fact that you reach that proficiency. And I guess everyone has a different approach to it, and my advice to you would be do what you have to do to learn the material and to become successful. And if for one reason or another a college or university doesn't appreciate that approach, then perhaps that's not a good fit for you to begin with. The fact of the matter is, I'm assuming that your high school is creating this because they saw a void in terms of preparation, and this is meeting or answering that void. So I guess my advice would be, if it's what you need to do to grasp that mathematical information in that lesson, to gain proficiency that you need to gain, then do it.
By any chance, do you have an accelerated master degree program in biomedical engineering, like a 5-degree program? Biomedical engineering?
On that one. Yes, so the University of Detroit Mercy has several accelerated options, both in the College of Business and the College of Engineering and Science. I would say the two largest jewels in our academic crown, if you will, are the 7-year accelerated dental program and the 5-year accelerated physician's assistant program. Those are two of the most competitive programs that we offer at the university, but it is a direct admission to dental school and PA school. Now, your question specifically was about engineering. We do offer 7 different engineering majors at Detroit Mercy, all of which have an accelerated admission option. I'm going to try and do this in front of everybody. Mechanical, electrical, civil, environmental, architectural, robotics and mechatronics, biomedical, general engineering, all of which have a 5-year accelerated choice, 3-year bachelor's, 2-year master's.
What I guess I would talk to about anything accelerated at Michigan State is that basically we find that students who come into our institution in our honors college most often use those 30 or 40 or 45 or 50 or 60 credits that they bring in based on AP and dual enrollment or whatever IB that they receive. They tend not to abbreviate their time on campus. In our honors college, you can take graduate level courses as an undergraduate, and it is not unusual to be in the honors college and graduate with a double major, triple major, and we've even had some that have gone quad major. There are opportunities, if in the honors college, to go on to an accelerated track, but you don't see those provided widely. They tend to be more of a specific pursuit on an individual basis through the honors college.
We have preferred admission in certain programs where a student would be preferred admission into pharmacy, for example. So they can apply to that, or the School of Education, and they apply to that out as a freshman. The most popular would be the preferred admission to the Ross School of Business, where a student applies out of high school, and then Ross accepts them as a BBA student, and they enter into the Ross program as an incoming freshman.
At Western, we do have around 19 accelerated programs, so the 4+1. Around 9 of those are in the engineering college.
Great. What a great evening. We want to thank the panel so much. Thank you for coming this evening.
Nice job. Nice job, man.
And thank you to the audience. You've been great. Have a great evening. Drive home safely.